Search engine and SEO capabilities are constantly growing, and one of the most interesting aspects of this is what's known as rich snippets or structured data, which is the ability to add specific data to your website that Google and other search engines can identify specially and process specially. Essentially, you're designing for Google and making the search engine's job easier. And the perk that you get out of this is a better representation for your site. Now, this topic goes exceptionally deep, and there are constant new additions to what's possible with structured data. The example I'm going to use today is events, event lists. You can see here in a standard Google search results a series of website links, which beneath them contains a list of events with a date and a link directly to the event and some additional detail information. And the way that Google has identified these is through structured data on the website. So how do we do this? So structured data has a long history of many different formats. You could sort of liken it to the evolution of the tablet all the way back to some of the earliest pen-based handheld PDAs that Apple coughed up many years ago. And many of the original formats were based on taking HTML and adding tags, using special classes, etc., that the search engine would then look for. And this is obviously very messy, particularly in an environment such as WebFlow. It would be quite messy to rely on using classes to describe data. So you can look at Google's website. If you search for structured data, you can find a lot of examples. There are now probably 5 or 6 different specifications for structured data. My favorite one is called JSONLD. And JSONLD is essentially, you can see an example of it here. It's a script tag in terms of its implementation with a bit of JSON stuck in between. It's because this is not a browser-specific feature. It doesn't matter whether any browser supports it. Browsers don't care. They see a script tag, they see the type, and they ignore it because it's not a type that they process. For the search engine, however, it comes across this block and says, I know what to do with that. And provided that your JSON data contains something meaningful that it can process, you get structured data. And you've supplied it effectively to the search engine. So there are quite a few specifications for JSONLD, references for how to use it effectively. You can check Wikipedia for a little bit of information about its history and use. But the best resource that I have found so far, which appears to be managed by the main search engine providers, consortium of the main search engine providers, is schema.org. Now, schema.org, founded by Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, Yandex, is basically supplying all of the specifications in one central place that you need to create structured data. What you can do is go to the schemas section here. I'm going to pick an event, but you can see you can describe people, places, businesses. There's a lot of stuff you can describe: TV series, recipes, movies, books, creative works. We won't go into all of that, but the specification for each of these is a very in-depth bit of research. If you really want to get into it, there's probably a lot you can do. Now, I am almost certain that the vast majority of these fields are unused by the search engines. It may get picked up, it may even get indexed and stored. It is not likely to have any effect at all on how your listing appears in the search engine results. However, some of them do. Now you can see each of these. You can click on any of these, and I can jump over to creative work, and it will describe that thing. And as you know, if you've worked with JSON at all, it's basically a simple hierarchical data structure format that's quite easy to work with in a standard text editor, which is perfect for the WebFlow environment. Now, you've also got specific types of events as examples, but what we want to use is just a basic generic event. Now, you can see here, this is old style structured data markup. We've got divs with classes. You've also got microdata format, which is a different version of it using item props. You've got RDFA. The one we want here is JSONLD. By far, this is the easiest one to work with in WebFlow. Now, we don't need a particularly complicated event. We're looking for something pretty basic. We want, the time and date and location and title of the event, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to go as simple as we can. Let's have a look what the JSONLD for this one is. I can see it's got a place, and I can see, I'm looking at my other notes as well here. Name, address, location. I'm not sure what the graph tag gets us. So we're going to go with basically the simplest version we can, and we'll modify it from there. Now let's go ahead and create this capability in our WebFlow project. Now this WebFlow project has a simple upcoming events page, which needs some styling attention. And essentially we've got a CMS collection of events, which is here. Very simply designed, has start date, title, brief description. It's also got links out to the venue and the event type details and a much more robust text description for its page. And that table is bound to a collection list here, which we've already populated and done some design on. Now to add the JSONLD to this, what we're going to do is select our collection item, and we're simply going to insert an HTML embed. From here, what I'm actually going to paste in is the JSONLD code that we copied from the schema.org site, but I'm going to paste in a slightly modified version for my purposes, which I've already edited up in a text editor. So I'll show you the modifications as we go. So this is what I'm going to start with. Basically, we've got the context, schema.org. We know that it's an event type. We're going to have an event name. We've got a location. We're probably going to simplify this a little bit. I don't think that we need all of these details, but I can run with that if needed. We'll have a look in a few minutes. And of course, we have a name of the location that's inside this location bracket. And we've got offers. But for the offer, I'm not actually going to include pricing for these events. I really just want to have a URL included so somebody can click through and get to our event page. And then there's also this offer availability, which you can see, comma, is also inside of the offer brackets, which is availability in stock. It's important. Now, there are a couple of flags that are defined by schema.org for events. One of them, for example, is a canceled event. Make sure you don't inadvertently paste that into your JSONLD and have all of your events show up as canceled. And the most important, perhaps, thing here, the start date, which is here at the bottom. We'll get to that more. This is one of the trickier areas to populate, but we have a special approach that works quite well here. So let's go ahead and get to linking this up. The process is very simple. We basically want to go through, remove whatever old temporary data we've got here, and we want to insert our linked data from our CMS collection. So here's the name of the event. Here we've got a location. This is listed as a postal address, but I actually want to simplify it to a place. And a place is essentially like a postal address, but I'm not looking for the precision of mail delivery here. So let me double check my notes. Yes, so we basically have a name. We could do a combined address. We can break the address down like this. This is perfect. Now let's go ahead and populate the address locality. We'll see what we've got in our venue table. We do have locality. Excellent. And we should also have region. I believe this is the way I set this up to mix this postal code. I don't really need, but I may have it. And the street address. I'm sure we are going to have here venue address. And that's good enough. Now there is also missing. We're going to definitely need a country, because the events for this organization often occur in different places around the world. So let's have a look at what that's called. There we go, country. Now you'll need to verify, I won't do it right now, but you need to verify, of course, that your schema tags are properly named and properly cased, and of course make sure you don't have any typos. So double check this if you are actually going to use it. And of course we have the name of our venue as well, which I do have in my table as venue name. And we're now set. We've got our venue described, we've got our event name, and now we've got our offer. Now, one of the challenges of WebFlow is that it doesn't allow you to simply drop in a link to your CMS item's full URL. And most likely this is because you likely have several different URLs for your site and several different host names bound to it. Which one do you want to use is not something WebFlow wants to worry about. So you have to construct most of this URL yourself. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and link it to brojo.org. And events, I already know where it is, and I'm going to basically paste in my event slug. And make sure you check your URLs, of course. Everything is current. Now, we're at the fun part. Now, the start date is particularly interesting in that this particular format that is needed for JSONLD is not one that WebFlow offers the ability to create directly. So let me go ahead and copy this into, I'm going to use a Notepad++ as a text editor here, just as an aside for reference. And I'm going to go ahead and replace this with our start date. Our event start date, which is here. Now, if I were to save, close, publish the website, everything would work fine. However, this start date would be in a format that does not comply with the schema.org JSONLD specification, which means that it would probably not show a meaningful, useful date. However, there is a way around this problem. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this entire line also into my text editor, and I'm going to show you as that happens. As I paste it in, you can see that it has expanded. Now we're sort of hacking WebFlow here, so this comes with the big glaring red light caveat that this could change at any time. What we're doing here is totally unsupported and it may break tomorrow, but I've been using this now for over a year quite happily. And you can see what happens is, if you ignore all of these HTML entities, you've got path, you've got start date, transformers, name, date, arguments, etc., etc. And then you see here what looks a lot like a very convenient date formatting string, which we can change, and which we are going to change. And I'm going to jump back to one of my previous conversions here because I want to see this is what I'm looking for. This particular string here. So let's bring that back over. The particular format that I want is year, month, day with a T, the hours, the minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and do the seconds. And I want Z, which basically means that this is untime zoned, which is fine for the purposes of what I'm doing here. I'm going to assume that whoever's brought this up in Google search results is in the locale of reference. So it's going to show their local time zone. So let's go ahead and drop this into our string. This is exactly what we want, and we don't need to HTML entity encode anything to make this work. And be very careful not to break your entity quotes here. Here we go. We're just replacing the formatting string, and we've got it. And what we're going to do now is take this entire line, and we're going to paste it back into our custom code. And it looks like so. Now what's interesting is WebFlow did not compress it, but it does recognize it as its code. You can see it's highlighted it. but I can still see all of the details. Don't know why that's happened, but that's beautiful. It works great for our purposes. Now what I'm simply going to do is leave it exactly like that. I'm going to save and close. I can publish and continue with my site. Now essentially what's happening here is that whenever this page is published or updated, whenever it's rendered by WebFlow, that this script tag, this HTML embed, is also going to get generated with this JSON+LD content, and that simply becomes available to search engines that are indexing the site. It probably will take a few weeks before you see your page picked up, and before you begin to see changes to your search engine result listings, but it does work, obviously, and it is very helpful and beneficial. You'll probably get it wrong the first time, and unfortunately I have not found a lot of tools that allow you to analyze and test and see what is Google going to show me later. You may try the Google Webmaster tools, which do have some ability to analyze your structured data, but I believe it's only after it's been found and processed. So it's a little bit of a hit and miss situation. You'll be playing with your links, playing with different options to see what works best. I wish you the best of luck and have a lot of fun with this. Definitely check out all of the other structured data options as well, as there's probably a much more powerful way to represent your business projects and, of course, your clients as well.